Well, to think about the history of Farm Street Church, you have to really think about the history of the Jesuits in England and in London. We go right back to the Reformation, to the 16th century. There were many Jesuits who were martyred not far from here at the gallows at Tyburn. And then in the 17th century, during the restoration of the Catholic monarchy under James II, we had a very special Jesuit priest, Father St. Claude La Colombière, who was the chaplain at St. James's Palace. So we have that long connection before Catholicism became legal in England in 1829. This was land really which became available as this neighbourhood of London was growing, this neighbourhood called Mayfair. Through the wonderful generosity of many donors who wanted to build this amazing Gothic building, the Jesuit church in London, that money was raised, and so Farm Street Church, the foundation stone was laid in 1843, and it was officially opened on the Feast of St. Ignatius, July the 31st, 1849, by Cardinal Nicholas Wiseman.
It's what's known as the Gothic Revival, which really begins with the burning to the ground of the Houses of Parliament 15 years before the church opened. The major thing, I think most people would talk about the pointed arch as being the main characteristic of Gothic architecture, but then also the tracery of a window, the small stone separations of the different parts of the window, and also the emphasis on verticality. Don't forget, we're in the middle of the Victorian era, and the Victorians hated any square millimeter that wasn't decorated. So if you look around, there's precious little, apart from, I suppose, some of the stone walls, that isn't decorated or gilded or painted or somehow enhanced. Hugen designed the altar at the back of the sanctuary. He's responsible not for the architecture of Parliament, that was Barry, but the interior decoration. So he designed everything from the doorknobs to the wall coverings to the carpeting to everything. It is stone. I mean, it's gilded stone, as you can see, with some painted highlights. So that really is I think, the jewel in the crown of Farm Street.
We received a huge number of people into the Catholic Church. Cardinal Manning and Cardinal Newman were very associated with the church. Evelyn Waugh, G.K. Chesterton, these amazing individuals from the past, they were associated with Farm Street, and so we were known as, for many years, as the Converts Church, as the Writers' Church, as the Artists' Church. That's something we've really brought into the current day.
I haven't been an actual parishioner as long as I've known Farm Street, but it's very dear to me for historical reasons, because my father, who was born Protestant, became a Catholic and was received by Father Darcy. And of course, because I've always been interested in the history of the Jesuits. I am a parishioner now. It's an honour to be a parishioner at Farm Street. I've done two specifically Catholic books, if you like. One being the Gunpowder Plot, and in another way, The King and the Catholics, about Catholic emancipation. And in both cases, I was lucky enough to work in the archives downstairs beneath the church. And that was a marvellous experience. It was rather like being in a sort of Da Vinci Code novel, with arches and not very lit, sort of black figures slipping. But when you got rid of that, it was a brilliant place.
We know that Edward Elgar, when he was staying in London, would come to Mass here. And he heard a performance apparently one Sunday of a Beethoven Mass in C, and had put in his diary and didn't enjoy it that much. So there was a big music tradition in the late 19th century. But it was really the period after between the two wars, between the First and the Second World War, that things moved fast. A priest, Father Driscoll, was in charge of the choir. and it was made up of men and boys. And there is a recording, I think you can find it on YouTube, of one of the boys singing an Ave Maria solo. Now, Father Driscoll was, I think, an excellent singer by all accounts, and a very, very good teacher and trainer. And these boys had a voice, a sound, which was very different from the English cathedral traditions. Developed this very significant choir of men and boys' voices through the 20s and 30s, right up until the outbreak of the Second World War. And he made adaptations and arrangements of lots and lots of music, and we still have some of this here. You can kind of see Father Driscoll's peculiar handwriting. Apparently he wrote these motets out or copied them out while he was in the confessional, waiting for people to come and confess while he was here in confessions. Street it's not just a singing home, but it's a spiritual home for the choir. For me, I mean, goodness gracious, I've been here for 40 years. I love it. And the last thing I'd ever, getting up on a Sunday morning to come here has never, ever been a problem.
I think the key thing about the Eucharist is what we call communion, a very wide-ranging idea. So that sense of unity worldwide, that sense of solidarity, often with very, very different people. The Greeks called it koinonia, which means commercial contract. I often translate it as solidarity, which is a sense of belonging together. And what I think the live stream gives us is the sense that you can actually belong with Catholics, and very often not Catholics, all over the world, wherever they are.
This is a wonderful opportunity for evangelization. The world is getting smaller. It's becoming more and more a global village. And so while we want to welcome you in person into this beautiful church and this beautiful community and actually see you in the flesh, at the same time, we really want to say welcome online too, because you are part of the Farm Street family as well.